across the country because of this situation.
Understandable. Thank you very much. Sam Ford reporting to us live from Reagan National. We have another eyewitness on the phone right now. His name is Charles Tanner. Mr. Tanner,
yes,
tell us what you saw.
I was in the, I live at the Overlook Apartments, and I was doing some exercise with jump roping, and this plane came increasingly fast, almost close enough to, if it headed this direction, hit the building that I'm in, which is an 8-story building, but it was aiming for the, in the direction of the Pentagon, and then all of a sudden I see this puff of smoke, and I just ran over to Columbia
so you didn't actually
to get a better view of it.
So Charles, you didn't actually see it hit, you just saw it to a point, and then you saw the smoke?
I just saw this plane coming very, very fast, going in that direction as I was listening to you guys talk about what happened at the World Trade Center.
And where you live, obviously, it's close enough to Reagan National, but that's not a flight path you normally see.
Right. Well, I'm closer to the Pentagon than to Reagan National.
Okay, but obviously planes flying over there on a daily basis.
This is usually not the flight path of any aircraft.
Mr. Tanner, we do have more information about exactly where that plane crashed. We understand right now from the AP that it crashed near a helicopter landing pad near the Pentagon. So as far as we know, it didn't crash directly into the Pentagon. From where you are, Mr. Tanner, are you okay? Are you safe?
Well, unless, of course, the plane decides to hit this building, yes, I think I'm very safe.
Can you believe that this is happening in Washington, D.C., Mr. Tanner?
I want to say yes and no, okay, because of different terrorist activities and things of that nature, and because of what happened at the World Trade Center, I would say that it doesn't surprise me. I'm just a little shaken that it has happened.
And I'm not sure when we talk about that helicopter pad, if it's the one that's on the west side where you drive by all the time on the main street, that you can see if there's another one there as well that a lot of folks go by on a daily basis.
We quickly want to recap before we return it to ABC News. The State Department has now been evacuated. The White House has been evacuated. The Capitol has been evacuated. There was a credible threat to the mansion, which I'm talking about the White House here, and so the entire White House has now been evacuated.
Of course, this all started in New York about 8:40. We want to go back to ABC News and allow them to continue their coverage of this entire and unbelievable incident that's going on. I'm Don Hudson along with Carol Costello. We send it now back to ABC News.
Just before 9 o'clock, and the second one was after that. And John Miller, you're listening.
Actually, it's interesting. There's no way to characterize any part of this as fortunate, but if you look at cities who are prepared to handle an incident like this, and as you've seen New York's emergency response to this, it is probably one of the few places that is prepared with the kind of equipment, response, and rescue efforts that could actually address something like this. And Washington is probably the other. Immediately when this happened, the entire emergency service unit, which comprises hundreds of specially trained cops, was mobilized to the scene. Now a triage center for the injured has been set up just around the corner from the World Trade Center. It's an incredible scene down there with a tremendous amount of equipment.
The Federal Aviation Administration has actually gone even further than it did a few minutes ago. It was asking all planes not to take off. Now the FAA has ordered all aircraft currently in the air over the United States to land at the nearest airport. Now you can imagine what may be happening, or what they think might be happening in some part of the country, that there is somebody else on some aircraft coming from somewhere or going somewhere with evil intentions, and so all aircraft currently in the air over the United States have been ordered to land at the nearest airport.
I think what you're going to see...
I just want to check one thing, because one of the very first people the President talked to was the director of the FBI, and Pierre Thomas, who covers the Justice Department and the FBI for us, has been here. They may think they prepare for this kind of thing, Pierre, but man, it must have been a shock.
Stunning shock. The FBI Special Operations Center is now in full alert. The FBI extremely concerned that there would be additional attacks. Normally when you have a situation like this, they immediately get on the line with the CIA, the various intelligence agencies, trying to get a sense of who might have been planning something. But right now, the first order of business is to protect against a second attack, third attack. The feeling is normally when you have this kind of situation, there will be more attacks almost immediately.
Let's go to the trade tower again, because, John, we now have what do we have? We don't...
It looks like a new large plume of smoke.
Now, it may be that something fell off the building It may be that something has fallen. We don't know, to be perfectly honest. But that is what you're looking at, is the current. That's the scene at this moment at the World Trade Center. Dan Daler from ABC's Good Morning America is down in the general vicinity. Dan, can you tell us what has just happened?
Yes, Peter, it's Don Daler down here. I'm 4 blocks north of the World Trade Center. The second building that was hit by the plane has just completely collapsed. The entire building has just collapsed, as if a demolition team set off. When you see the old demolitions of these old buildings, it folded down on itself, and it is not there anymore.
That should be it.
Thanks very much, Dan.
It has completely collapsed.
The whole side has collapsed?
The whole building has collapsed.
The whole building has collapsed?
The building has collapsed.
That's the southern tower you're talking about.
Exactly. The second building that we witnessed the airplane enter had been, the top half had been fully involved in flame. It just collapsed. There is panic on the streets. Thousands of people running up Church Street, which is what I'm looking out on, trying to get away. But the entire, at least as far as I can see, the top half of the building, at least half of it, I can't see below that, half of it just started with a gigantic rumble, folded in on itself, and collapsed in a huge plume of smoke and dust.
We're talking about massive casualties here at the moment, and we have, whew, that is extraordinary.
There is panic on the streets. There are people screaming and running from the site. The gigantic plume of smoke has reached me, and I'm probably a quarter of a mile north of there.
Peter.
Now this is what it looked like moments ago. My God. The southern tower, 10 o'clock Eastern time this morning, just collapsing on itself. This is a place where thousands of people work. We have no idea what caused this. If you wish to bring anybody who's ever watched a building being demolished on purpose knows that if you're going to do this, you have to get at the under infrastructure of a building and bring it down.
Peter?
Yes, Dan.
What appeared to happen from my vantage point, the top part of the building was totally involved in fire, and there appeared to be no effort possible to put that fire out. It looked like the top part of the building was so weakened by the fire that the weight of it collapsed the rest of the building. That's what appeared to happen. I did not see anything happening at the base of the building. It all appeared to start at the top and then just collapse the rest of the building by the sheer weight of the top. There was no explosion or anything at the base part of it, but I did see that the top part of it started to collapse. The walls started to bulge out, bricks, glass things coming out, and then it collapsed in on itself, and it appeared to just fold down from there, from the very top.
Thanks, Don, very much. Just looking at that, I don't know why, but when was the last time the United States was attacked in this fashion? It was Pearl Harbor in 1941. John?
From the scene now, there's obviously massive casualties. Usually during these things, there's a little bit of a high pitch, but basic calm over the police radios among the emergency workers. I can hear them screaming, signal 1013, which is the police code for help, calling for help at the triage center, where other people who were already injured have been injured more, confirming that the building has collapsed. Dozens of officers, more civilians are injured. And we don't know, although I'd have to suggest, given the size of that building, what progress the evacuation was in of the tower that collapsed.
Yes, Pierre Thomas.
One thing I might add is that in recent years, the U.S. government has been preparing for massive attacks, but it's been primarily focused on biological, often bombing attacks. One of the things I have not heard discussed at all in government circles is the notion that someone would hijack a plane and perhaps flying into a building. So one of the questions that I'm sure that will come out of this, if this indeed is a terrorist attack, is what kind of defenses did the U.S. have in place to deal with an event like this?
Well, we talked about that even, Pierre, just before you came and joined us, because at the Emergency Management Center, which is just literally in the same complex as the trade towers, they talk at great length about their preparations for a biological, a chemical warfare attack, how they closed tunnel. I mean, they've been very efficient, taken it very seriously for many years. I'd be a little surprised if the notion of an airborne attack on a United States target had not been discussed. But the notion of the intelligence services knowing absolutely nothing of what is going on today and saying openly right away they had no warnings whatsoever is, and you say something very important, if this is a
if it headed this direction, hit the building that I'm in, which is an 8-story building, but it was aiming for the, in the direction of the Pentagon, and then all of a sudden I see this puff of smoke, and I just ran over to Columbia
so you didn't actually
to get a better view of it.
So, Charles, you didn't actually see it hit. You just saw it to a point, and then you saw the smoke?
I just saw this plane coming very, very fast. I'm very safe.
Can you believe that this is happening in Washington, D.C., Mr. Tanner?
I want to say yes and no, okay, because of different terrorist activities and things of that nature, and because of what happened at the World Trade Center, I would say that it doesn't surprise me. I'm just a little shaken that it has happened.
Mr. Tanner, we do have more information about exactly where that plane crashed. We understand right now from the AP that it crashed near a helicopter landing pad near the Pentagon. So as far as we know, it didn't crash directly into the Pentagon. From where you are, Mr. Tanner, are you okay? Are you safe?
Well, unless, of course, the plane decides to hit this building, yes, I think.
Across the country because of this situation.
Understandable. Thank you very much. Sam Ford reporting to us live from Reagan National. We have another eyewitness on the phone right now. His name is Charles Tanner. Mr. Tanner,
yes,
tell us what you saw.
I was in the, I live at the Overlook Apartments, and I was doing some exercise with jump roping, and this plane came increasingly fast, almost close enough to pass, going in that direction as I was listening to you guys talk about what happened at the World Trade Center.
And where you live, obviously, it's close enough to Reagan National, but that's not a flight path you normally see.
Right. Well, I'm closer to the Pentagon than to Reagan National.
Okay, but obviously planes flying over there on a daily basis.
This is usually not the flight path of any aircraft.